All right, so I was thinking we would go ahead and start with that expanding scale exercise that we have done in past classes. Starting with major, let's go starting here. Do, re, do,
re, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, ti, la, ti, la, sol, la, ti, la, sol, fa, sol, la, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Now let's try minor. We're doing natural minor, so we'll have te instead of t. Same note then.
Do, re, me, do, re, me, fa, do, re, me, fa, sol, fa, do, re, me, fa, sol, fa, do, re, me, fa, sol, te, sol, fa, do, re, me, fa, sol, te, sol, fa, do.
We can go ahead and stop there. So basically what we're going to be working on is intervals, which is the distance musically between two notes. For example, on our major scale here, each of these intervals would be a second, because they're one note apart. And usually I like to think of intervals in the context of the scale of the bottom note. So let's go ahead and find all of the intervals in this scale right here from do. So do to re would be what interval? Second, yeah. So that's a second. And if we're thinking in the scale of the bottom note, that would it be a major or a minor second? If we've got a major scale here. Major, perfect.
Wait, why is it not minor?
Why is it not minor? Because we're working from the major scale, and basically a minor second is a half step, and a major second is a whole step. And so then how about do to mi here? Would that be third? Great. And then do to fa, we got it now.
Fourth.
Yeah, fourth.
Major one?
So this is where we run into a little bit of an interesting situation. So our third here, we forgot to identify the quality, which means major or minor or whatever. What would the quality of the third be? Major, yeah, because it's major scale. And then you run into intervals that, like the fourth, where you've got a fourth C to F and a fourth C to F in both scales. So we call that a perfect interval rather than major or minor because you can't assign it to one of the two scales. Lindsay?
How come the second isn't perfect?
Because a minor second is a half step and a major second is a whole step, and that's just how I like to think of that one.
And what about if it was larger than a perfect fourth?
Larger
Why
than,
wouldn't that be major and a minor?
what do you mean?
Like, why could we not call that a minor fourth and then bigger would be major, since a minor second and then bigger is major?
Right. So the minor second is a little bit different than the other ones in terms of it doesn't follow the rule of thinking in the key of the bottom note and going up. But when you're thinking about like a major third, you're thinking in the key of C, and then E would be in the C major scale, the third scale degree. And so that's why you would call that a major third. And then in the key of C, F would be which scale degree? Fourth. And then can we say whether that's major or minor for sure if we're just hearing F and C together? No, that's right. So we'll just go ahead and call it a perfect fourth. That's why we have that separate category. Sydney?
So perfect intervals exist independent of the scale that they're in?
I mean, yeah, because they're part of a whole scale that you couldn't define, like, because you're hearing intervals a lot of the time, the bottom note of the interval won't necessarily be the do in the key that you're in. So you can hear a perfect fourth and not be like, I'm in D minor, so it's a minor fourth or whatever.
Okay,
Let's keep going. What about a fifth? Major, minor, perfect? What do you think?
well, fifths are in both, right?
Yeah,
So then it would have to be.
Perfect.
exactly. So we can go there. It's a perfect fifth. I'm gonna have to just keep getting bigger here. What about do to la?
I guess since it's in the major key, it would be a major sixth.
Yeah, major sixth. Uh-oh. And do to T.
Well,
Man.
we can alter the sixth tone in the minor scale, so it could exist in both scales, so why isn't it perfect?
When we're thinking about intervals and defining what quality they are, we think in terms of the natural minor scale, because that's the most altered from the major scale. So it's easier to categorize them that way. But you're right that like in the melodic minor scale, it would be do to la, which would be a major sixth.
But we're altering it to make it that way, right?
Mhm. And then, what about do to T?
Major seventh.
Major seventh, awesome. And I don't think we need to go back down. And
Would it be a major octave?
major octave, well, let's think about it. Can you decide if you're hearing two notes an octave apart, whether it's a major or minor scale between them?
No.
No.
No, so what would it be?
Perfect?
Perfect octave, perfect. All right, and now let's go ahead on to the minor scale. Yes, Jenna?
Why, how do you tell what the intervals are when you're going down the scale?
Down. Okay, so you always think in terms of the bottom note of the interval. So these intervals on the way back down, we'll be able to figure out after we do the minor scale and get comfortable with those intervals. So I think I'd like to move on to this one and we can go back to that. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So what about this first interval right here? Full step or a half step? Because we know it's a second.
Whole step.
So is that a major second or a minor second?
Major.
Perfect.
But why wouldn't my key?
I know, but this is like the sort of one case that does not follow that rule that I explained. So minor second's a half step, major second's a whole step.
Where
Do,
would that happen? Like, where would that occur in the scale?
a minor second.
Yeah.
So where do you see? Let's look at the major scale again. Where do you see half steps? So that's do to re is
Whole
whole
step.
step. Re to mi,
Whole step.
mi to fa.
Half step.
Half step. So that would be like you can put a little minor second there. And so we got, jumping back to our minor scale here, we got a major second, and then do to me,
Half step.
minor
Third.
third. Perfect. And usually when I label the minor, I like to put a little line over the M just to make it clear that it's not major. And do to fa, done this one before.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah. Kind of see that. Do to sol,
Perfect.
same thing. Do to lay,
Minor.
minor sixth, yeah, because lay is the sixth scale degree. Do to te,
Minor seventh.
minor seventh, and do to do.
Perfect.
Perfect octave. Awesome. So you guys got this. Let's go ahead and what we're going to do now is we're going to split up into groups and do a little bit of a different thing, which is we're going to look for all of the different intervals of a certain kind. Yes, Rachel?
I thought we were gonna go back down the scale.
Oh, yeah, we can do that. So if we're thinking in the key of the bottom note, whenever we analyze an interval, regardless of which one comes first, you think in the key of the one that is lower. So let's say we're going do to la, going down. And la is the bottom note, right? So A. And is C in the A major scale or the A minor scale?
Minor.
Minor scale. So if you're going up an A minor scale, what scale degree would C be?
3.
3. So what is this interval then? If it's in the minor scale of A, third.
Minor third.
Minor third. Cool.
What if you can't think of the key of the bottom note though? Like,
I mean, I know we're basing it on C right now, are we gonna learn that later, or, like,
Learn.
if it went G sharp to B or something,
Mhm.
I wouldn't wanna think of the key of G sharp.
Well, I think the more comfortable, and actually the next activity that we're gonna do is gonna help us work on this, but we're gonna get more comfortable finding all of the different intervals within the scale, and that way, if the bottom note is kind of an uncomfortable key, you can think of it as different solfege syllables. So like we know that do to mi is a major third, and then we can get comfortable with the idea that re to fa, for example, would be a what? Because we're in the key of D, we got an F natural. Minor third. So like re to fa is a minor third. And the more that we practice these things and get real comfortable with them, the more it'll just be like second nature. I saw a question, Abby?
Yeah, so what if we're like having kind of a hard time figuring that out, and for instance, if we can't think in that key, would it just be easier to count by half steps for intervals?
You can count by half steps, but that can get really unreliable really quickly because you start dealing with really large numbers. Like for example, a perfect fifth, do sol, is 7 half steps. Which that just like a lot of the time if I'm thinking numerically in terms of half steps with big intervals like that, it can get confusing and I can make simple mistakes.
Can you do like whole steps and half steps, or because this is like really confusing me because of like out of context. So you can, like with larger intervals, you could think whole steps and half steps, then you wouldn't have to count as many half steps, and then it wouldn't be that many, right?
So you're saying thinking rather than thinking in terms of just half steps, just thinking in terms of steps in a key?
Would that be okay?
Yeah, that would be fine. And that's going back to thinking in the key signature of the bottom note, which when you can do that is really, really great.
But like she said, like I have no idea what G sharp major would be like. So it would be okay for me to count the half steps between G sharp and B.
Yeah, and if we're thinking about, like we've got our major scale here, and you can think about the different kinds of seconds that make up a major scale, right? So it would be, what's the first interval here?
A major second.
Right, so that's a whole step.
Whole step.
Right, and then the next one, D to E, we did this already, whole step, half step, and then F to G, fa sol, whole step, sol la, la ti, and then ti do. So you've got this pattern of whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, which if you can memorize the sequence of seconds in the major scale, then you don't necessarily have to think in a key signature. You can count up the steps like that.
So a major third is 2 whole steps.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
So let's go ahead and split up into groups real quickly. What we're going to do is we're going to have groups of 3, and each group is going to go to one of these spots on the board, and I'll explain what we do next. Maybe you guys can divide up into groups yourself.
Equal special markers.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Pass it down. Oh, you have one.
I brought my own, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, are you guys all set?
Yeah.
So what you'll be doing is finding all of the intervals of 6 and just labeling those and then saying whether they're
Oh, we're supposed to
major
place.
yeah, all the 6 of the scale.
I think there's 2 other groups that you. So I think.
Here we go.
Okay, go split up.
Hello, Lindsay.
So you guys
Join the
will
throng.
be finding
We only have 2.
all of the seconds in the scale.